Welcome to the DTS version 4 video series. This video is an introduction to the DTS editor layout editor. The objective of the video is to demonstrate how to create, edit, and select DTS editor layouts. We have a lot to cover, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. A DTS editor layout is a specification for the visual structure of the editor's user interface. The items in the menu bar, the icons in the toolbar, and the panels visible in the main editor window. Previously, the editor layout was contained in an XML file held on the client. Starting in version 4.3, layouts are no longer stored in client files, but are held on the server in a manner similar to namespace and subset profiles. Like profiles, both user and system layouts are defined. User layouts are available only to the current user. Users can see their own layouts, but not those of other users. System layouts can be used and read by all users, but only users having the DTS administrator privilege can create, edit, or promote system layouts. The new DTS layout module contains features to dynamically create, edit, and select layouts. The default location of layout menu items is the Options menu. The Layout Editor item opens the Layout Editor panel to create and edit DTS editor layouts. The Select Editor item allows changing the current layout. We'll start with the Layout Editor. The Layout Editor is used to create and modify editor layouts. To demonstrate the basic editor capabilities, we'll first look at how the editor represents the default DTS editor layout. After this introduction, we'll create a new layout, diving into detailed editing considerations and options. The layout opens with the default DTS editor selected from the Layout combo. This layout will always be available. The layout definition is presented in 4 tab panels: the Options tab, the Menu Bar tab, the Toolbar tab, and the Layout tab. The Options tab shows the general parameters associated with the layout. Note that the default layout is maintained internally by DTS and is read-only, so all of the parameter fields we'll show are non-editable. We'll see later how to copy this layout into a new editable layout if desired. There is a text description of the layout, a checkbox for setting whether automatic loading of plugins should be performed, and the width and the height of the layout. Plugins are enabled for the default layout, but custom layouts will usually leave this box unchecked, since any module, including user plugins, can be explicitly placed in the layout. The default values for width and height are shown in the fields. If this was an editable layout, you could override the defaults by simply entering the desired integer value. At the bottom of this tab and the other tabs are 2 panel action buttons, Clear and Restore. Pressing Clear clears the contents of the fields in the tab panel, restoring the defaults if any. Restore, which is only enabled once modifications to the panel have been made, discards any active modifications and restores the field's original values. Both these buttons are now disabled since this panel is read-only. The Menu Bar tab shows the menu tree for the selected layout. The top-level menus are displayed. To see the module items below any menu, just expand the menu node. Here are the items in the Tools menu. The items show the displayed menu item name, followed by the module name. We will look at how to customize menu items later in this video. Here are the toolbar items. These items are simply the names of the modules present in the toolbar. As with the menu bar, we will look at how to customize toolbar items later. The most sophisticated aspect of a layout definition is the positioning of the module panels. The Layout tab graphically represents the modules and their organization. We'll describe this panel in detail a bit later, but you can see that the standard layout consists of a vertical multi-panel with a compound panel on top and the DTS status module on the bottom. The upper compound panel is horizontally oriented and consists of a tab panel, a movable divider in the middle, and the details panel on the right. You can see the names of the tab panel modules in the tab positions. That's a quick overview of the 4 panel layout tabs. Below the tab area, there are 6 action buttons for working with layouts. The Save button stores current modifications to the selected layout. Rename renames the current layout. Copy copies the current layout to a new layout with a different name. Any layout, including a read-only layout, can be copied. Non-administrator users can copy system layouts, but only to a new user layout. This can provide starting points for subsequent layout customization. If the user is a DTS administrator, a user layout can be copied to a new system layout, making the layout visible to all users. This is called layout promotion. Restore discards the current modifications to the layout and loads the original layout definition. Delete deletes the selected layout. System layouts can only be deleted by DTS administrator users. And cancel closes the editor. If any modifications are pending, a confirmation dialog is shown. Now that the basic structure of the editor is understood, we'll build a new layout. This layout will provide simple browse capabilities, including the search, detail, and status modules. I can create a new layout by clicking the New button at the top of the editor. The name of this layout will be Browse Layout. I'll start layout definition with the Options tab. First, I'll enter a descriptive comment. Since I'm building a custom layout, I'll leave the Enable Plugins checkbox cleared. We don't want the editor to use the default plugin placements, since I can directly specify user plugin modules as well as system modules. Finally, I'll leave the default width and height values. If you want a different size, just enter the size in the appropriate field. Note that the Options tab now contains an asterisk showing that modifications have been made to this component of the layout. Now I'll move to the Menu Bar tab. This panel builds the menu bar for the layout. In the subpanel on the left, we will build the menu tree. Menu items will be taken from the Module List panel on the right. This panel contains the names of all the modules and module components that can be used in menus. Note that some modules, like the DTS status module, are not present because they do not have an associated menu item. For those of you who are writing DTS modules, new methods have been added to the module API to support passing this feature availability to layout editors. The first menu is usually the File menu. I'll click on Add Menu and enter the menu name. To populate this menu, I just drag and drop module names from the list panel. I'll drag the DTS Connect module onto the menu. This will insert the item at the end of the menu item list. The DTS Connect module includes 3 menu items: Connect, Connect Parameters, and Disconnect. Dragging the DTS Connect item will include all 3. If I only wanted the Connect item, I could have only dragged the DTS Connect.Connect item from the module list. Now I'll add the DTS Exit module. I'll drop that onto the Connect item. Drag and drop always inserts the new item at the highlighted or dropped position, moving the other entries down. But I'd usually like Exit to be last, so I'll drag the existing Connect item back up to the top. Remember that I could have also dropped DTS Exit on the menu name, and it would have been added at the end immediately. It's nice to provide a menu separator between these items, so I'll drag the pseudo module separator found at the top of the module list onto the tree over Exit. Next, I'll add a new Configure menu. And I'll add the layout and preference modules to the menu. Adding the layout module will let us update layouts from this new layout. You can also drag and drop whole menus in the menu panel. I'll put the Configure menu to be first. This was an example of a move drop mode. That is, it moved the item from its original location. It is possible to copy an item as well, leaving the item in its original location. Just hold down the Control key when you do the drag. I'll do a copy of the exit item and put it in the Configure menu. Note the change in the drag icon. Note also that drops from the module list panel are always copies. Now I'll move the File menu back to the top. That's all that's necessary to build the menu bar tree. To fine-tune your menu bar, there are additional options on menus and menu items available using context or right-click menus. We'll look at those capabilities later in the video. Building the editor toolbar is similar to the menu bar. We simply drag and drop toolbar items from the right panel to the toolbar list. I'll add the details and then the search modules. As with the menu bar, only modules or module components having tool icons are shown in the module list panel. Drag and drop is supported, and item context menus are also available. The final tab is the Layout tab. This tab supports the graphical positioning of the modules that will be present in the layout. At the top of the panel is the Continuous Layout checkbox. This box is normally checked so that the layout will be continuously redrawn when panel dividers are moved. The starting layout, a single empty panel, is shown on the left, and the modules and module components having layout panels are listed in the module list on the right. This list also contains the tab panel, horizontal multi-panel, vertical multi-panel, and divider pseudo-panels. We'll see how to use these entries later in the video. We'll start our layout with a common module found in most layouts, the DTS status module. This is the module that provides the single status line at the bottom of the standard layout. I'll drag this module into the layout, replacing the empty entry. DTS status should be at the bottom of our layout. To add additional module panels above this module, we need to build a vertical stack of panels. In a layout, such a stack is called a multi-panel. A multi-panel is a sequence of module panels in either a vertical or horizontal direction. Let's build a vertical multi-panel based on the current status module. Right-click on the DTS status name to show the context menu. We'll look at all these options later, but now we will select the Wrap with Vertical Multi-Panel option. The status module has now been surrounded by two colored bars, one above and one below. These bars, called expanders, are not elements of the layout itself, but are used to build a multi-panel. To put a new module, like the DTS detail module, above the status module, just drag and drop the module onto the upper expander. There are now 3 expanders associated with our multi-panel, allowing further additions to the vertical stack at the top, at the bottom, or in the middle. Any of these expanders can be the target for a new module. Before I proceed, I would like to comment on the size of the status module. The layout editor shows the size of the status panel to be the same as that of the details panel. This is a limitation of the layout editor. When the layout is actually built or realized, the module panel classes are queried for their minimum, maximum, and preferred sizes. The layout builder tries to honor these requests as much as possible given other constraints of the layout. Because the status module class specifies a small maximum size, it will be realized with a height of only 1 line. The rest of the space will be taken up with the detail panel. I now want to add a search panel to the layout. We could continue stacking vertically, but the search panel is tall and would use a lot of our real estate. So let's add it next to the detail panel using a horizontal multi-panel. We'll open the detail panel context menu and select Wrap with Horizontal Multi-Panel. Note that the expanders for this new multi-panel are vertical bars and are a different color to help distinguish the multi-panels. We'll finish this layout by adding a search panel to the left of the detail panel. That completes our layout. We'll press Save to save it. So to define a new layout, I have provided basic descriptive information, built a menu bar, built a toolbar, and defined a physical panel layout. Now we'll close the layout editor and use the Select Layout menu item to load this layout. I'll select the layout, click Apply, and confirm. Here's our new DTS editor layout. So how did I do? We have a file and a configure menu. We have toolbar items that open floating panels. Note that DTS maintains the server connection. It is not necessary to reconnect. We can do a search and view concepts. Now, the relative sizes of the search and detail panel may not be what we expected. Remember that the layout builder queries each module class for its preferred sizes. Generally, these are the sizes of the module when invoked as a floating panel. Use of these preferences may not result in the most pleasing static outlook. There is no way to fix this placement problem by changing the size of the panel. There's no movable divider between the panels. So that was a good start, but let's go back and try to correct these issues. Since we added the layout module to this layout, we can simply invoke the layout editor and select the browse layout. The option tab looks okay. Let's move to the menu bar. We didn't identify any problems here, but we can look at some of the additional features I mentioned earlier. If I select the File menu, the Edit and Remove buttons at the bottom of the panel are enabled. Clicking on Edit opens an Edit dialog for the menu, and clicking Remove opens a confirmation dialog to remove this menu and all of its associated items from the menu bar. These same options are available via a context menu. I'll right-click on the file menu name and select the Edit option. There are 3 parameters for a menu. Name is the name of the menu that we originally entered. Mnemonic is a 1-character mnemonic for the menu. Let's make this F. Command is an optional string value that is set as the command attribute on the menu item. This command string is only used by Java programs and is generally not required. Let's save these parameters, and you can see that the mnemonic now shows in the display. Menu items have a slightly different set of parameters. We'll right-click on Connect and click Edit. Name is the name of the menu item. This value defaults to the module component's short name as specified in the module's class file, but it can be overridden by simply typing an alternate name into the field. Tooltip is the tooltip string displayed when the mouse hovers over the item. Any entered value overrides the value from the module's class file. Options is an option string that is passed to the module when it is invoked. Currently, only the DTS detail module supports an option string. For the detail module, the string can specify which DTS objects are supported in the panel: concepts, terms, namespaces, etc. For all other modules, this field is disabled. See the DTS Editor Module Architecture Guide for further information on option strings. Let's briefly look at the Toolbar tab. The context menu for toolbar items is the same as that of the menu bar items. It contains the Edit and Remove options. The Edit item allows modification of the name, tooltip, and module option fields. Now I'll update the layout configuration. Each of the elements in the layout shown have an associated context menu. We'll move through these elements, demonstrating the options and making our updates. Starting with search, here are the context items for a module. Edit opens the parameter dialog for this panel. Remove removes this panel from its immediate parent. In this case, the search panel would be removed from the horizontal multi-panel. Wrap with tab panel wraps this module in a new tab panel. We'll use this option in a moment. Wrap with vertical multi-panel wraps this module in a new vertical multi-panel. We saw how this was used earlier. and Wrap with Horizontal multi-panel wraps this module in a new horizontal panel. We will see other context menu actions later. Let's open the edit item for this module. The IID, instance identifier, and target IID, target instance identifier parameters, are used for inter-module communication, such as supporting click to edit. For details on instance identifiers, see the module architecture guide. Options is the module option string we described earlier. The weight parameter is used to specify the relative size of a module in a multi-panel. Let's say we want the search and detail panels to have equal sizes in this horizontal multi. We could put 0.5, 1/2, in the weight parameter to specify this. But the weight parameter is not absolute. It is relative to the other weights in the multi, so we'll just put a 1 here and do the same in the right multi-element later. That finishes the search panel. Now, in addition to the detail panel, let's say I wanted to add a tree panel so I could see the tree positions of concepts as well. I could add a tree to the existing multi-panel, but this would squeeze 3 panels across the layout. How about wrapping the detail panel in a vertical multi-panel? I just open the Details context menu and select Wrap with Vertical Multi-Panel. That worked. Note the new colors of the horizontal expanders. But this might be too crowded. Let's try a third option, using a tab panel such as that used in the standard DTS editor layout. But first we need to remove the vertical multi I just created. I'll open the context menu for the detail module and see that we have a new option, Unwrap Multi-Panel. I'll select it, and we've removed that vertical multi-panel. Note that this menu item is only available when there is just one module remaining in the multi. If a multi-panel has more than one panel, the other panels must first be removed. Now we'll select the Wrap with Tab Panel option. If the detail panel had not already been present, we could have added a tab panel to the horizontal multi-panel by dragging the tab panel pseudomodule from the module list and dropping it onto an expander. This would have created a tab panel with a single empty tab. As you can see, there are usually multiple ways to create a specific layout. The right panel is now a tab panel with a single tab. To add another tab, we can just drop a new module onto the upper tab area. Let's drop the tree panel. I dropped the tree panel at the end of the tab list in the open area, so the tab was added there. I could have inserted the panel at any tab position by dropping over that position. Also, I can change the position of any tab. Let's move the tree to the first position. Just grab the tree tab and we'll move it over. To replace the panel associated with the tab, drop a new module onto the panel area. We'll see next how to remove a tab. Each tab has its own context menu. There is an Edit and Remove item. Edit opens the tab Edit Parameter panel. Remove removes the tab from the tab panel. Let's open the Edit option. Tabs have only one parameter. The label parameter gives the name placed in the module's tab. The value defaults to the module component's short name as specified in the module class file, but it can be overridden by simply typing an alternate value into the field. Panels in a tab panel have an Edit Parameters panel that is similar to those we have seen before. The only difference is there is no weight parameter. All the panels in a tab panel have the same size, so this parameter would be meaningless. Size allocation is determined by the tab panel itself, as we'll see next. Tab panels have their own parameters. To view these parameters, we select the tab panel's context menu by right-clicking in the empty portion of the tab area. We'll select Edit. Tab panels have two parameters. The placement parameter specifies where the tabs appear. The default is top, but we can just easily select any of the options from the drop-down. I'll select bottom. This tab panel is now the right panel of our horizontal multi. We want the width of this panel to be the same as the one on its left, so we'll put 1 in the weight to match that of the search panel. Note that the tabs are now on the bottom of the panel in the layout editor display. We're almost done. We wanted a movable divider between the right and left panels. I'll drop a divider pseudo-module into the expander in the middle of the screen. Dividers can be either vertical or horizontal, depending on which type of multi-panel they are a part. Finally, I'll save the revised layout. Let's see how we did. I'll close the layout editor and reopen our browse layout. We now have a balanced display, tabs on the bottom, and a movable divider. One addition to the layout architecture in 4.3 is that a tab panel can now contain other tab panels and multi-panels in addition to single panels. Let's extend our browse layout to show this. I'll open the layout editor, select our browse layout, and copy the layout to a new browse and model layout. Since I'm a DTS administrator, the editor asks if I want to copy the layout as a system layout. I'll say no, so the layout remains a user layout. I want to create a top-level tab layout for the panel, so I want to wrap the whole upper multi-panel into a tab panel. I'll do that with the multi-panel's context menu. A multi-panel's context menu is available by right-clicking on any of the expanders. I'll select Wrap with Tab Panel. The created tab is not very informative, so let's edit that. Now I want to create a modeling tab. I'd like a multi-panel in this tab, so I'll drop the horizontal multi-panel pseudo-module into the tab panel. And we'll change its tab. Finally, I'll add the types, search, and detail modules to the multi. That's all there is to creating a relatively sophisticated layout. I would next normally add dividers and set weights for the panels, but I'll leave that up to you. Just a few more items before we finish up. Note that it is not an objective of the layout architecture to implement user access control through layout definitions. While a read-only layout can be designed and deployed for certain users, access control should be implemented through the user manager and not layout definitions. Let's go back to the Layout Editor menu bar. There are two menus, File and Configure. The File menu has two items, Import and Export. Similar to the namespace and subset profile editors items, these options enable the exchange of layout definitions via local XML files. The format of these files is compatible with that prior to DTS 4.3, so existing layout files can be imported. Details on this format can be found in the Module Architecture Guide. Import and export are most commonly used for the exchange of layouts between users or between a user and a DTS administrator for the purposes of promoting a user layout to system status. The Configure menu has only one option, Set Default Layout. We have seen how the Select Layout menu item allows a user to select and load a new layout. Layout defaults control what layout is shown when a user first connects to a DTS server. When connecting for the first time, DTS looks for the user's default layout. If one exists, the layout is loaded. If the user has not designated a default user layout, DTS looks next for the default system layout. This layout is set by a DTS administrator and permits a common layout to be loaded for all users. Finally, if a default system layout has not been specified, DTS loads the classic standard layout. As we saw earlier, this layout is maintained internally by DTS and cannot be modified. To set a default user layout, select the desired layout from the drop-down and click the Set button. To remove the default layout, click on Clear. The System tab in this dialog is only available to DTS administrators. Finally, here's a bluebird for our YouTube users. What would happen if you created a layout without layout select capability and then set this layout as your default? You would have no way to get to any other layout, and you might not have access to modules that you now realize you need. Here's how to always get back to the DTS standard layout. Close the editor and restart. Then, before you connect, press and hold the Control and Alt keys on your keyboard. Now select Connect. DTS will override all default layouts and load the internal standard layout with all features. Now you can correct your layout and your default as required. That completes our introduction to DTS editor layouts. Layouts are a great way to customize the DTS editor to meet your specific terminology management needs. Good luck! Thanks for watching. See our other videos on the Apollon YouTube channel or visit www.apollondts.org for everything DTS.